Yeah, we just arrived at the infamous Elephant Sands. It's so hot. Can't wait to get into that pool at Elephant Sands. Hopefully the dam is full and there's elephants visiting, and we can actually just relax around the pool for the afternoon, which is going to be awesome before we go to Kubu Island tomorrow. This is my campsite and my view. How stunning is that? Some of the chalets look like they're being rebuilt. Elephant Sands is a great one-night stopover. I wouldn't stay there too much longer. The meal in the restaurant is not bad, and the ablutions are very good also. Unfortunately, the campsite is full of building material, and while we were there, the truck was offloading more building material, making a lot of noise. But otherwise, it's a nice stopover before heading either north or south. Okay, now we're on our way to the Khari pads. We're going via Quetta, which is a nicer drive across the pads. Okay, while we're on Hunter's Road, I touched on the subject on litter and camping etiquette. But one thing that seems to be becoming more and more popular are these lights on top of like a fishing pole type effort. You get them at 4x4 megavolt, they're about 1200 rand, and they're seriously bright. I think it's fine if you use these things, but you know, you've got to consider the campers around you. You can't be using those and lighting up the entire campsite for everybody, because you know, some of us like to look at the Milky Way, for instance, or like to watch out for satellites and shooting stars. And when you got a man-made sun on the end of a fishing pole lighting up the entire campsite, blinding everyone, it's not very pleasant. I think they were just not thinking correctly. So guys, please think about your fellow campers. You know, not everyone wants to have stadium lights covering the campsite. So, you know, maybe we just face them in a different direction so that they don't shine on everyone's faces or, you know, disturb people. Once I asked them to turn it off, they were quite happy. No complaints. I think they just didn't think about the effect on everybody else. So just something to think about when you're camping and there's other people around. Don't use those stadium lights, or if you do, put them on the lowest setting and face them in a different direction to everybody else. Okay, we're on the road between Nata and Quetta. There are so many goats and cows here, you've got to really take it easy on this road. A lot of these goats are pretty suicidal and will run across the road. If you see goats on the left hand side and the right hand side of the road, be very aware that they might cross to join each other. So we've just left Quetta. The GPSs are very unreliable in this area, especially this Overland, who seems to be very user unfriendly. But we're having fun. We're driving through the bush. Tracks are narrow, heading towards the pans.
Alright, when you get here, don't follow the track, just follow my trailer. I'm behind you.
So some of these tracks are a little bit narrow for the cars with the trailer, as you just heard there. But we're getting here slowly, still on our way to Kubu from Quetta. At least it's opened up a bit. The lane has probably been scratched. We've got 97 kilometers to go. Hint that I want to tell you about, we've just met a local guy in his Toyota Bucky, and he was such a friendly oak, biggest smile that you've ever seen, you know. And we kind of forget that these people live out here, and we almost sort of crisscross their land without any consideration for them. So if you see them, greet them, smile, have a little chat, you know, maybe ask them how their day is and all that sort of thing. And then also if you know, come across their house and you're on a very dusty road, slow down a bit. Don't cover them in dust, because I'm sure you wouldn't like to be covered in dust. So treat them like you would like to be treated. You know, we're so fortunate, you travel through these bumpy tracks and you have your car getting scratched, and then suddenly you come across this. Absolutely incredible. What a privilege to be here. You know, you've got to come here at least once in your life to experience this. Here comes the other guys. Now it's their first time, so I'm going to try and catch their reaction on camera. What do you guys think?
How far is this, man?
Hey?
And that's just trees on there, eh?
That's, yeah. Byron,
What's the sea long?
what do you think, Bert? Hey? As you come over that hill, hey? As a side note, a lot of people who travel here in the wet will suddenly come across a part of the road that sort of slows them down, starts to bog them down. And then what they do is they try and go onto the grass. It's actually sometimes better to stay on the road because it's compacted from other vehicles. You know, sometimes you go into the grassy areas and you just sink down to your axle. So rather try and keep onto the road. It also makes it easier for somebody else to recover you if and when they do come along. So keep to the road in the wet season, and then don't make too many crazy tracks across the pans at all, at any time actually. Let other people also enjoy them in pristine condition. Something I want to point out is that often you'll come across a place where there's 2 or 3 tracks going in different directions. These tracks are made during the wet season where people are trying to avoid sticky parts. Don't worry, they all generally head in the same direction and end up in the same place. So as long as you're heading in the general direction of Kubu Island, you'll eventually get there. From Sands to Kubu via Gweta is roughly 260 kilometers. But it's a far better route in my opinion compared to the Nata Kubu route, because you're traveling a lot more on pans and varying terrain. The one crossing of Ntwetwe Pan is roughly about 10 to 12 kilometers long in the dry season, which is really nice. During the dry season or before the rains or at the end of winter, you should be safe from being bogged down. But still, take caution because there are several wet spots and it all depends on the previous rainy season. From Kubu Island to Khama Rhino Sanctuary is roughly 250 kilometers, of which roughly 50 kilometers is off tar. Something I found really sad about traveling around Botswana is the amount of litter that's all over the place. It's like a national flower. If you can, pick it up and then dispose of it at the next opportunity. Another thing I saw is a lot of graffiti on baobabs. These baobabs, some of them have been sitting there for thousands of years. There's theories that for every 1 meter around the circumference of the trunk equals around about 100 to 120 years. And then some clever person comes and writes their name on the trunk. Please don't do this. It means absolutely nothing to anybody except yourself. To most people, it will just mean that you're a Once you've climbed up the ancient shores of the Mkharikari Pans, you get to a little town called Matshumo. I hope that's pronounced correctly. From here, it's around about 200 kilometers to Khama Rhino Sanctuary. Let you know how hot it is. Currently it's 51 degrees. So you need to be prepared with water. The staff at Rhino Sanctuary are unbelievably friendly. We arrived there early enough to go and take a drive and have a look at the rhinos on the band and relax around the campsite before the sunset. Really great stopover. The ablution facilities were very clean. I know that's very important to some people. So a great stopover before hitting the road back to South Africa. Unfortunately, all trips have to come to an end at some stage, so we headed back to South Africa. The border crossing was pretty fast and simple, except for the COVID testing at the gates. We were through very quickly. On the way back to Johannesburg, we decided to stay at Marakele National Park for one last stopover before hitting the big smoke. We've unfortunately come to the end of our trip. We're sitting here at Marakele National Park at the moment, just having one last rest night before we hit the chaos of Johannesburg and Gauteng. Thank you all for watching. I hope it is an improvement on last video. I certainly am trying to improve things. If you've got any comments, suggestions, or even want to just ask anything about the route or where we stayed, please feel free to contact me, comment below, and then I will respond with whatever I can, with whatever information I have. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. Cheers.